And I'd rather someone ask me a question just because they want to know than them being scared to ask it, than making a silly mistake down the line. It's the fact that there was nobody for me when everything happened to me with my misdiagnosis. I didn't have anybody to relate to or to look up to. So I kind of became that person. I don't ever see, at the time, back 2018 was when I started to, well, it was a really dark place for me then. And then I tried to come out of that with my acceptance of my scar and the fact that I had a stoma at the time. And when I did go to post on social media, at the point at that time, I was in a really bad relationship. Horrible guy. Thank you, next. But he was literally like, nothing worse than having a shit bag. If you move on, don't shit on anyone. These were his exact words. And then when I did post a picture in my scar, he's like, oh, it's so attention seeking. So I took it straight down. So no one really saw it, because for ages, it took me so long to get to that place. Yeah, I'd wear jogging bottoms up to here because my scar would start here and it goes down, because I thought, in my head, I felt like if I wore jogging bottoms here, then like a crop top, there's like a small gap so you can see a bit of skin so no one would know I had a scar. It was like this weird way of thinking. So because I went through all of that, I vowed that I didn't want any other person or woman to ever feel that way. So that's what motivates me now to do that for anyone that's lonely, that anyone that's going through this diagnosis, for anyone that's scared. Or I get lots of messages from women with scars or stoma saying, you've helped me so much. Or especially with the toilet aspect, like now I've had my stoma reversed, I'm not always getting to the toilet, but I'm very open about that. And that's not something that, if you was to ask me that back then, that would have been like the worst thing ever. I would never talk about like poo or pooing myself online, like on a big platform for everyone to see. But now I've just had to embrace who I am, and it's helped so many people. So that's what motivates me. Yes, changed a lot. I was modelling since I was 4 years old, so really little. But this was obviously before we knew I had Crohn's disease. I'd always had problems as a baby. I was being sick all the time. And we tried all these different, diets and, cutting out this, cutting out that. And my eczema as well was really, really bad, which now we've come to think it could have probably been Crohn's, because there's a lot of kids that have Crohn's, or babies, which is sad, like being diagnosed at a young age, but it would have probably helped me. So modelling from that young age, my first ever job was for Steam Museum, because I live in Swindon. So my mum's a graphic designer, so then she did the campaign. So that was my first ever modelling job, and then I got into modelling. But as a mixed race little girl, there wasn't really anybody else that looked like me. There wasn't anybody. When we went to auditions, it was all quite a lot of Sylvia Young at the time that would go to these auditions. But I had like a unique look, because there wasn't really many other little girls that looked like me. And especially in the industry, like today, you could say, like, some people like, oh, Kate Moss or Naomi Campbell were like the eyes of the 90s or the 2000s, whereas there wasn't anyone that looked like me. And I still probably can't think of anyone off the top of my head, which is like not a great thing, but representation just wasn't there. And then when everything happened to me with my scar, I generally thought that was it, never going to get booked again. And for that reason, it's because, again, there's no representation at all. Even like in the dance world, I was trained as a dancer to think that how you look is how you're going to get booked. So we were told, like, you could have someone next to you, which is terrible, but they could be like the most technical dancer on the planet and dance from the age of like 2 years old. Whereas I've danced from 16, 17, but because I'd looked better than them, I would get the job over them, which was terrible. But it was all about how you looked at dance school. So when this happened, that again threw me, because I was like, well, I'm not going to get booked in the modeling industry because there's no one that looks like me. And how am I going to get booked for like shows if I wanted to dance? Because no one, again, I've got a scar on my belly now. Like it's the worst thing ever. And then when it came to lockdown, it got a little bit better. So we had all the body acceptance journey, body positivity came about. And then suddenly my work went quite well. I got quite a lot of like modeling jobs. I did like a massive campaign for PRT in Italy. But again, I was the only model they'd used with a scar. The rest of them were obviously different body shapes, but we had one curve curve model there and me with a scar, and I did kind of feel a bit like the token model, because also later on I did find out I got the lesser pay, which was obviously not great. So whether that was due to, you know, the agency I was with at the time, it was a different agency, not pushing for me, or whether it's because they just threw a fee and then they just, you know, which actually did upset me, because I felt like I was this token. We've just hired someone that looks a bit different, so now we're gonna pay her less, and but doing the same job as everybody else. And even now, when you think of like scarred models, I can never name one. There's no one out there, and that's why I tried to become that person. When you say like Vertiligo, for example, I can straight off the top of my head go Winnie Harlow, or so it's sad. It's changed a lot, and again now the Ozempic phase has come in. We've kind of been pushed to the side again. So like disabled models or curve models, we're not a thing anymore, because Ozempic's in, so they want the skinny Kate Moss 90s looking women to come in now. So again, it's up and down, and I feel like I always say like fashion is, yes, it's a trend, but they always say like, you know, classic timeless fashion never goes out. And it's the same with bodies. It shouldn't be like, oh, I'm not in a trend now, so you're not going to get booked. Whereas, you know, and then it was when we were getting booked, all the skinny tall models were moaning that they weren't getting booked, and it's like, well, it shouldn't be like that. It should be everybody. Like everybody, you want to see, you know, yourself, you want to be represented, you want to say, oh, that's what that looks like, especially with sit down fashion for wheelchairs, or for me with my scar. When I first had my scar, I, again, as I said, I was really just hated it, and I couldn't see anything online to see how it would fit. Like, I'm really weird, I like really high-waisted stuff. Don't like it to hit on my stoma scar. So like even with bikinis, it has to be lower than the stoma scar or higher. I don't like it touching it, because it really irritates it and it hurts in the end, but it's rubbing all day. But I don't see that online. So if, especially when it comes to jeans, we have a trouble buying jeans anyway. It's just a nightmare. But online, I cannot see if the model's like 8 foot tall. I'm like, well, I don't know where that's going to sit on me. So is it going to sit exactly on this stoma line? Because that is what I do not want. Or is it going to be higher? Is it going to be lower? So yeah, it's hard. And that's because there is no representation out there. And it's just the way the modeling industry keeps changing. So it's like you've gone back to not feeling seen again. I was 18 and I went to New York with my mum for the first time for my 18th. And they have in the big toy shop, I don't know if you've been to New York, they have that big toy shop. And they had make your own Barbies, which I was like, oh my God, I want to do that, because I never had a Barbie like looking like me growing up. And I remember we got there and my cousin came with us to New York. Now she's white, but blonde. Her hair is tighter than mine. Do we think there's a throwback somewhere? um, so we both were like really excited, because yes, like Jessica had like white Barbie dolls, but none with hair like ours. And I just thought I could make one that looks like me, because you either had a white Barbie doll or a black Barbie doll. And there was none there. Like there was two obviously shades, white or black, then straight hair for all of them, and just different shades of hair. And I've never forgot it, because I was really disappointed, because I was like, I really wanted to make my own Barbie. And ever since, I've been trying to find a way with Barbie now to try and say like, you need to make, I mean, they've got better with the Barbie styles, but especially with like a scar or something, because I was like, and I never had a representation growing up from a Barbie doll, so it would be nice to have one now in a different way as such. So that's kind of what I wanted to say in the last one as well about representation, because it's not just with modeling where you see people, it's also with toys and, you know, like action figures or Lego. I think that they shouldn't be afraid of just using us. They're scared of being set, like, you know, of tokenism, or of being told, oh, they've only used you once. And yes, I will say that, because it's the truth. Pretty Little Thing have never used again a model with a scar or in a wheelchair or any sort of disability since that campaign. So that for me then is tokenism. But I think if a brand's to do it consistently and not make a big deal out of it, then that's authentic, and that's what they shouldn't be afraid to do it. People are going to obviously have something to say. It doesn't matter what you do. You could do something wrong, you could do something good. People will always have something to say, so you can't please everybody. I think like I model for Leanne Pinnock, so from Little Mix, for her swimwear brand, but she's used me consistently, and they've become like friends now, because her and her friend Gabby, when they started it, Gabby's dad has a stoma bag, weirdly enough. which she didn't know. But when I messaged her to say, like, you guys don't use any representation on like bikinis or stuff, she was like, I feel like that was sent to me, because I was literally saying to Leanne like a few days ago, we need to start doing that. And then like I came along and like we've stayed really good friends, which is nice. But they've used me consistently, and it's not just for bikinis, they'll use me for like their tracksuits and stuff as well. And I think that that's real representation then, because they're not making a big deal out of it, they're just being consistent. And the same like ASOS, you don't see any of that. They started to get a bit better. You're starting to see like the diabetes little I don't know what they are, the little diabetes things. And then you're starting to see, you know, hearing aids and things like that now, which is amazing. But again, we're still not seeing sit down fashion, or we're not seeing anyone with a scar where you can see it. We're not seeing any of that. And it's terrible. And I just think that they need to stop being scared of what people are going to say or getting backlash. If you do it properly and you do it just how you would treat any other, you know, the models that you have regularly, and it isn't a thing, that's where like people will start to shop because they believe you. One time campaign, and again, that's another thing, sorry, that annoys me with the campaigns, because it was a campaign, it was a big thing, and they got praised for it. And I always remain true to like who I am, and I did say like, actually Leanne did that first, because like they probably, I had an open casting with my agency for them, but they took two of us that did Leanne's before. One of them was the curve model, and I was the other one. So I'm wondering, like, did you do that like not on purpose, but you know, you thought, oh, I had to be diverse, and it was for swimwear. But I think like it's important that if they'd have carried it on, then I would have actually took them more seriously. But it seems to be it was just a campaign where everybody is. They said everybody in PLT, but we're not though, are we? Because now they've had a revamp, and none of the models are what everybody would look like on a day-to-day basis. They're gorgeous girls, but it's not what the average woman would look like every day with their body types. So there's a few things that I hope that they take. So first of all, the importance of not judging somebody. Just because they're not in a wheelchair doesn't mean they're not disabled or have a hidden disability. One of my main ones is to realize the importance of living your life, because it's a privilege to be able to, you know, not have chronic fatigue, or to not have Crohn's disease, or to not have to worry about pooing yourself, or to not have to worry if you're ever going to end up in surgery again and wake up with, you know, a stoma bag again, or worse, God forbid, that you don't wake up that time. I think that I hope that it inspires people to realize how lucky they are, but also how to be mindful and to be very kind. I don't want it to be so like, oh, now we have to do it all by the book. I just want people to be inspired and to know that they have to be kind, and to just not judge, you know. And then also for them to realize that they're just very lucky. Like we take stuff for granted when it's not us. And I feel like I've done that. I was very ignorant, I'd say, to realizing what's missing and how to do better for people with hidden disabilities or disabilities before I was diagnosed. Because again, why would I have looked at that? I should have, but why would I? Because it's not affecting me. And that's what a lot of people do. And again, that's why then they treat staff members at work that have these problems or any, you know, differently, because they don't get it. So it's just, and it's also being not afraid to ask these questions. It's not, you're not going to get told off for asking a question. You might think, "Oh, they won't want me to ask that." How can you learn if you don't ask a question? You know, no question is silly, and it's just about educating yourself. And I'd rather someone ask me a question just because they want to know than them being scared to ask it, than making a silly mistake down the line.